Hey everybody, hope you're doing good today. It's the morning devotion time. And as you can see, I'm at the office actually today. It is May 17th and super glad to be in the time of devotion. I do these devotions usually every day, Monday through Friday. But this week I've been out 2 mornings, man. I've been doing stuff and having some fun too, getting on the road early and all that, doing a little moto riding, and that's been fun and la-di-da. But anyway, I'm super stoked too to get through the 30s of Isaiah, because the 40s of Isaiah are amazing. So anyway, if you don't know, my name is Bo Willett, and I am one of the pastors at Calvary Christian Fellowship. Didn't grow up around Christianity, more grew up around a more progressive, Noam Chomsky kind of Howard Zinn, that kind of scene. So from the time I was a kid on, really Christianity was not in my world, not in my life. And lo and behold, I just read through the Bible, and through reading through the Bible, things made sense. A lot of things made sense and a lot of my paradigms on the Bible were broken down. A lot of people never read the Bible, so they don't kind of know a lot about the history of the Middle Eastern region, the people groups, the different empires of that region. And we're kind of majorly in that right now in the book of Isaiah. I go through the Bible just book by book, verse by verse, and that's how I do my devotions. You could always check out the archives at my YouTube channel at Bo Willett. By the way, our allergies out here in the desert is gnarly. A lot of wind, so a lot of allergies, all that jazz. But anyway, Isaiah 39 is where we're at. We're kind of knee deep in the life of Hezekiah a little bit. Isaiah is a prophet. In Israel, there's a lot of news networks. A lot of people on their feeds, and they're getting all kinds of news. War's going to happen. What is the Israeli government going to do? Does it sound familiar? Does it sound a little bit like today? And a lot of people are believing all kinds of things. The government has wanted to side with kind of, if you will, partner up with some of the other nations that are around Israel, Egypt, Babylon, these kind of things, and kind of buddy up and go after the other empire that is starting to dominate the region, and that is the Assyrian Empire. God, throughout the book of Isaiah so far, has been like, don't go to other people for counsel. Come to me. I'll help you. But it hasn't been that way. The government really has been lining up with other people, relying on other nations, relying on this nation, relying on that nation, instead of really just trusting in their God. So God in his mercy gives massive revelations to Israel of this promised Messiah that's going to come on the scene. It's something that has been spoken of over and over and over in times past, way times past, all the way up to the time of Isaiah. But there's even more insight into this child that would be born. And that child would be very much Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, the Wonderful Counselor. These are the names, the attributes of this son that would be born from the line of David. Really radical that the son would actually be born of a virgin. And that's radical for sure. So pretty intense revelations that are given through Isaiah. I don't know if the government's digging Isaiah too much, but he is working on getting the message out to the king and to the kingdom. And it's kind of similar to our word, our life, if you will, as Christians. It's to get the message out to king and kingdom, meaning to our kingdoms around us. And we too live in a time of kingdoms, many different kingdoms. Even what goes on in the Middle East today is very old things happening, very old, not just within the last 100 years, but we're talking thousands of years of fighting and different issues going on. And these things just don't go away. And so let's see how Isaiah 39 kind of breaks down. I'm going to read this on my computer, but I'll pull it over here so it looks like I'm looking at the camera. Now this says, soon after this, Merodach Baladan, son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent Hezekiah his best wishes and a gift. Okay. So, just so we know kind of what's going on, we had the Assyrian Empire write letters to Hezekiah in the last couple chapters. And the Assyrian Empire said, we're going to wipe you guys out, man. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing your God could do. You're jacked. I don't know if you've ever been in a moment where you feel like you're just absolutely overwhelmed. Hezekiah goes to the Lord and says, man, we need your help. And God comes through with this radical defeat of the Assyrian army. Hezekiah himself personally is told that, hey, you got to get your stuff in order. You're going to die. And he goes to God and he goes into the temple and he worships. And we really got a great idea that when we go through our struggles, it's best just to worship the Lord. That's the best thing we could do. And now the Babylonian Empire, an empire that isn't on the brink of conquering Israel, but is a up-and-coming nation that Israel wants to buddy up with to be able to defeat the Assyrian Empire. Now, this is after God has already done this amazing act of wiping out 185,000 Assyrians. And they have gone on, moved away from Jerusalem, and the Assyrian king has been assassinated. So a lot has happened in the Assyrian Empire. Sure, there's still an issue, but at this time, soon after this, it says, then Hezekiah is given a gift from Babylon. And it says, and he had been very sick and that he had recovered. So obviously they heard about his sickness and they give him gifts. Now it says Hezekiah was delighted with the Babylonian envoys and showed them everything in his treasure houses, the silver, the gold, the spices, the aromatic oils. He also took them to see his armory and showed them everything in his royal treasuries. There was nothing in this palace or kingdom that Hezekiah did not show them. There's a lot of application to this. I mean, there's just a lot of application. It's a devotion, so we want to make it very applicable. There are things that should be kept kind of private. Can I put it that way? It should be things that are just, between you and maybe another, right? But it shouldn't be to all those other people. And unfortunately, we live in a day and age where sometimes the most precious and sacred things have been distributed to everybody. right? That's what's crazy about these things, right? Because you can film stuff and you can distribute it to the world. No one's stopping you. It's there. You don't even have to pay money to upload a video, just like I'm doing with this, right? But usually there's a discernment in the distribution of things, of what should be shared, what should be distributed, sent out, right? And we live in a day and age where there's not much discernment. The things that should be private get to be sent to everybody. And that's sad. It can hurt yourself and it can hurt a whole lot of people. So hopefully you kind of understand that in application. Sometimes we even say things to people that really shouldn't be said, and they should be private things. But in a sense, we show someone everything. We tell them everything. That's another applicable idea, right? There are certain things that just need to be private, and we need to learn how to keep those things private. Now, Hezekiah, after he is healed from a very traumatic experience of being sick, is stoked that Babylon sends the gift. What's the motivation of Babylon in sending the gift? We don't quite know. But it could be very much that Babylon wants to kind of buddy up to Hezekiah, the king of the southern tribes of Israel, because they're wanting something out of it. They have an ulterior motive. What is my motivation for doing what I do? Do I have an alternative motivation? That's a good question. Am I trying to control? Am I trying to manipulate? Am I coercing? Am I flattering? Right? Maybe Hezekiah was flattered. You know, do I flatter someone in order to get something out of them? You kind of, when you think about this situation going on with Hezekiah and the king of Babylon, you kind of can really pull together a lot of applications and things to think about in your own life. And it's really, to me, it's kind of deep and it's kind of neat. And you kind of go, wow, that's right. Sometimes I do flatter people because I want them to go a certain way. I'm trying to manipulate a situation. I'm trying to move a situation. And you find that that's just not good, right? It's not good to try to control and try to manipulate and use your words to say things that are very manipulative. But we have a lot of fear in the heart. Sometimes our fear comes out through control, right? And we manipulate to gain some kind of supposed control in our life. Hezekiah was in a time where he didn't feel much control, right? He felt out of control. He was sick. And when you're sick and you're not doing well, you can feel very out of control. And the thing you want to do most is control. Hezekiah also could have easily just been kind of in a weak state after being ill and just not really thinking through things, not thinking about what is the king of Babylon doing in this gift. And hey, and he ended up going even beyond Hezekiah, that is, by showing the armory of Israel. You know, the place where the weaponry, the military, you know, hey, let's go to the military place. I'll show you my F-16s or whatever. I'll show you all my, ballistic missiles, and I'll show you how much this I have and how much that I have. He didn't have to go there, but he does. Right? It says there was nothing in his palace or kingdom that Hezekiah did not show them. So Hezekiah, like many of us, sometimes want to boast in what we have. And maybe that's what a lot of social media is to a lot of us. And that is, and I include myself in that, is maybe sometimes we want to show everybody, even people we don't know, everything in the kingdom. Everything becomes a trophy, right? Something to see, something on display. And, maybe that's not very healthy for us. And maybe it's created things like what Hezekiah is going to see, is that it creates a false friendship. Is Babylon really friends with Hezekiah? Are they really interested in the best? Is, the situation in our world, what is the real motivation of Israel? What is the real motivation of Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran? What is the real motivation? Those are good questions, because that really gets down to the root of it. People always talk about, oh yeah, a two-state solution in the Middle East, that'll go great. Yeah, but what's the motivation behind it? If it's just like, yeah, two states, great, let's get a two-state. Okay, we got a two-state, but the real motivation is to wipe out, to genocide, right? Take out a whole ethnic group. Then, and this is just a step towards that, then it's not quite a good step, right? No, it's a bad step. It's a horrible step. Because you don't know what the motivation is. Either way, either side, right? If Israel had genocidal thoughts of taking out a people group, or the Islamic groups like Hezbollah and Hamas have a motivation of taking out Israel, the Hebrew people, those motivations are not so good. Right? We can say they're bad, right? And so, does Babylon have an idea to wipe out Israel? Are they thinking, hey, if we can get in with Hezekiah, then maybe we can have a leg up in the future. We can, in a sense, spy out the land and know what is there, right? That kind of idea. So a lot of people sell out their, if you will, their private things, and it comes back always to haunt. You know what I mean? You sell out, that's what the idea of prostitution, right? You sell off, right? Something that is to be private or sacred, right? And you make it common. It's something that's now distributed to all. It no longer becomes special. It no longer becomes sacred. If a conversation stays secret, it's sacred. It's something that's a special conversation. Don't make that conversation common by just spouting it off to everybody. It should be something that's between you and you, kind of thing. There's certain things that should be private between me and someone, and that's it. And not other people, right? So maybe the tragedy of our world is a lot of the distribution, not so much the production. That could be argued that way though, but it could be the distribution of things. So anyway, it says, then Isaiah the prophet went to King Hezekiah and asked him, what did those men want? Where were they from? So Isaiah steps in, right? He's the newscast. He's the journalist. Hey, what's going on really, Hezekiah? And Hezekiah replies, they came out from a distant land of Babylon. What did they see in your palace? Isaiah asked. So Isaiah cuts through the chase, gets right to the nitty gritty. All the other news networks are probably going like, hey, it's amazing. This president's so great. He's buddied up with the king of Babylon. Isn't that amazing? And all the networks are just like puppets, man. They're just feeding out that info to all of Israel. Man, isn't Hezekiah great? But Isaiah is the reporter, along with a few other reporters, prophets, i.e. prophets, that are in Israel that really hone in on the story, right? And they ask, hey, Isaiah says, what did you show them in the palace? And Hezekiah replies, they saw everything. I showed them everything I own, all my royal treasuries. Wow. Then Isaiah says, listen to this message from the Lord of heaven's armies. The time is coming when everything in your palace, all the treasures stored up by your ancestors until now, will be carried off to Babylon. Nothing will be left, says the Lord. Some of your very own sons will be taken away into exile. They will become eunuchs who will serve in the palace of Babylon's king. Ho ho! That's talking about even the guy named Daniel. Remember that? Daniel, Lion's Den fame? Yeah, Isaiah here's talking about that. That's going to happen in the future. That's not yet. It's not in Isaiah's day. But he says it's going to happen in the future. Okay, so this is a prophecy. It's foretelling the word, the future, if you will. And that's what he says. Everything's going to be carried away. Babylon, your sons will be taken into exile, and they will serve. They're going to serve in the government. So, some of the royalty of Israel is going to be serving the king of Babylon. They're no longer going to be serving you, Hezekiah. So wherever those things you showed the king, those things you showed the king, they're going to take those off to their area in their government, and your sons and people are going to be serving where those treasuries are at in Babylon. Everybody's going there. Wow. And it says, then Hezekiah said to Isaiah, this message you have given to me, the Lord is good. For the king was thinking, at least there will be peace and security during my lifetime. So Hezekiah goes, hey, I got a message from the Lord that there's going to be peace in my lifetime, but when I die, it's going to be, wow, Babylon's going to come in and take us captive. And so Hezekiah's got this idea that, hey, well, I guess it's okay. It's good. I mean, at least I'm not going to, die right now. And at least things are going to be okay right now. I don't know. That sounds kind of a little bit, self-absorbed a little bit. Hey, at least my generation's got it together, but the next one, they're toast. Sometimes we can think a little too about ourselves where we just don't think much of that next generation and what they have to deal with, right? My generation has to deal with what went wrong prior, and, fortunately, my generation, the Generation X generation, hasn't done a very good job, if at all, in office. And we might have really messed things up so much economically in major ways where the next generation of people growing up are the only thing they are going to be able to do is fall under a dictatorship to try to survive. And that might be where we're going and how we're leading. And that's pretty crazy to think about. But it happens over and over in history. So it's not odd, because it always happens in history. There's always dictators. There's always people that will take over. There's always power structures that will coerce and manipulate and to stay in power. This is how it's always been, right? And a lot of times when we think we're doing the right thing, a lot of times we're not, and we're doing the wrong thing. We're actually going in the direction that we didn't want to go in. And, that's how Hezekiah thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks he's going down the right path as a government official, as the king, right? He thinks, oh yeah, I'm doing great. He's on TV, probably telling everybody how great everything is, and his foreign relationship's awesome and everything like that. When really, it's all manipulative going on. There's all this stuff going on, and there's really no hope for the future of his kingdom, of Israel. The decisions that Hezekiah is making in power are going to affect the next generation in a serious way, not in a minor way, but even the location of where they live is going to be different. What have we seen in the last 4 years? Massive government overreach, right? Shutting down businesses, people having to lose their businesses, people having to lose their jobs, people having to move everywhere. Yeah, your decisions matter. Now, of course, for those in the White House or those in the Congress, they still live in their homes. They still have their health care. But that's not how it is for many, many, many people. Government decisions matter. And we see that in Isaiah 39. And it's the government, decisions are sometimes the macro of the micro, us, right? That do the same thing. We go into relationships, there's coercion, manipulation, control, other ulterior motives, and it always comes back to get us. It doesn't help us. It might help us in the short, but in the long, it never does. And it certainly has an effect on our children, and it could even be on our children's children. And that's a heavy load. Without the gospel of Jesus Christ, that can be one depressive way to think about things. And I think most people, when they don't have the gospel, which I didn't at one point, when you don't have the good news of Jesus Christ, you are constantly trying to affirm your goodness. Deep down, you're a mess, and the world's a mess, and humans are a mess, but you're trying constantly to win the battle of your brain so you don't get so depressed, because it's depressing. So you can go to drinking or drugging or sex or whatever and get all into that, but sometimes you can just start thinking pridefully about yourself and become self-righteous, even as a secularist, right? Because you're trying to deal with the underlying guilt that's just constantly in your heart about where we're at. The good news of Jesus Christ is, you can do nothing for salvation. You are toast. You are done. You are that person who's affected the world in some pretty serious bad ways. But I have redeemed you, and I have bought you out of slavery, and I will do a work in you, and I'm going to raise you up, and I'm going to perfect you. And there's hope. Now there's hope. That's what the gospel of Jesus Christ brings. And so, we see the destructive nature of government decisions in chapter 39. And through Jesus Christ, we also see that there's great hope for us. God will redeem us. He will fix all that has gone wrong. God not only authors salvation, but he's the finisher of it. He's the one who comes into the world and does it for us. Pretty radical. So in all things, we praise him and not some human being, right? Because humans just can't do it. So anyway, cool stuff. Casey says, I never liked that last word from Hezekiah because it sounded selfish. Yeah, totally. It's like, hey, thank God I'm not going to die. But hey, my kids will. How about that? They're going to go to Babylon. That's going to be great, for them. Not really. But, he says, hey, at least I'm going to be okay, right? Yeah, my kingdom. Yeah, my government. Oh, yeah, we're great. Yeah, you're great. Again, you live in the White House. You have great medical all the doctors at your disposal. Do other people have that? No, we have to sell a car to pay for a scan, but you don't have to if you're in government, So is it selfish? Absolutely. Is it sick? Absolutely. Is it sinful? Absolutely. Is it wrong? Yeah. Absolutely. Who can remedy such chaos? Right? Totally. Thanks be to Jesus Christ, right? That's the work of Christ. So, hey, you guys take care. Have a great day. Man, that was a great chapter. A lot of cool stuff there. Man, that's something maybe I'll teach from the pulpit one day, that chapter. So anyway, you guys have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.